Hello, the monthly close is upon us for Bitcoin here. Welcome to Landy's Crypto Corner. Today is February 28th, 2023. So as we move into the new month, we're going to, of course, as always, take a look at Bitcoin spot price on the daily. And then, of course, we're going to look at the monthly because, well, that's what the title of the video is. And it's a pretty important monthly close. So let's go ahead and kind of follow up from the last time that we spoke here on daily price action first, though. When looking at the structure that we have going on here, we have that high that we put in. We have put in a low, but we are looking at the possibility of a lower high right now. So when looking at something like a swing indicator, you can see that we found support in basically the areas that we had spoken about prior, which is on the swing lows of the structure below us right now. And we have, of course, a new trend. So we have a high, we have our low, we have a lower high, we have a lower low. Could this be another lower high? Well, that remains to be seen, but pretty easy to identify if it's going to be a lower high. We're going to see closure below, in this case, 23,160 or so. And if you want to be more conservative, you want to see a daily close come in below 23,052 bucks. So basically above 23,000. Bitcoin has a chance to still take out this high over here. And that would be the high at 23,895, so 23,900. If it did take out that high, I would expect a run at least to the prior high here and the close open over here at around 24.3, 24.4. If we did see anything take out the 24.6 to the top side there, well, I think it's game over for the bears in this particular range, and we do push up further. But right now, bears do have the protection of this high. If there's another lower high painted here, I would expect not only, further down in this range, mid 22s to around the upper $22,000 area, which is the highs in and around this consolidation low structure. So I'd say, testing down to 22.3 to around this 22.1 area would make sense. And then, of course, we have the bottom side of the structure coming in at the mid $21,000 area, about 21,492, 21,500 area, to where we intersect with almost the close open over here of the highs at around 21,200. Now, I still think anything above this last low of this entire structure here at around 20,400. I do think is it's going to mean to me that Bitcoin probably goes up and to the right with different consolidation patterns that we're seeing here. Got the lower low here, nice move up. Could we come down and get another lower low, nice move up? Remains to be seen. Now, what I will say is some of the higher term time frames, on the weekly and below, are saying more downside. So if we do see a high put in here and Bitcoin cannot avert disaster on the daily here, then I would be looking further down into the mid to lower $22,000 area first, and then the mid to upper 21s. If that fails, we're looking at, mid $20,000 region to around 21. Below $20,000, I still remain with my analysis that we're going to go and test, $18,500 to $19,000. Maybe even 18,000 even. We've got 18,169. Nice on these lows over here. They kind of intersect with this high. And when you see like a strong move, because that would have to be a strong move to get down there, I don't think we're going to just kind of crawl our way back to $18,000. If anything, it's going to happen fairly quickly when we see a major area up here fail. So usually you dig into those areas a bit to find those orders and go from there. So it's my look on the daily. We'll take a look at just a few more things here, and then we'll get into the monthly. So when looking at what we have going on here on the daily, what we have done so far is we have the two ranges that I've shown you before. We have the entire range from this candle here on the 14th of January to the current candles up here, but I have them split. I pulled this range as a whole and then the upper range. So what you can see here is, as I had said the last time, if we see, the value area low of this upper range lost, we're probably going to retest it as resistance. And if we can hold above around that $23,000 on a closing basis, which is the point of control for the entire range, then I do think that Bitcoin has a chance to try back up to the highs. Doesn't mean it's going to break them, but it at least has a chance to try back up. Now, of course, today's structure that it's painting, not exactly encouraging for further upside, but it's definitely not out of the question by any means. If we do see closures below $23,000, that's where we start targeting those other areas, 22,000 and under. And if we do lose around 21.8, we're looking for 21.5 and under to around that 20,400 to 500 area. That's kind of the line in the sand. If that does break, Bitcoin's going to head down to some of the areas that I just spoke about, $18,500, $19,000, maybe 18 to 18.5. Kind of see what happens from there, because it could even go deeper than that, depending on how much open interest is in the derivatives markets. So we'll have to keep a close eye on that. For right now, Bitcoin's not doing too much. When looking at the daily, there will be, whenever it does bounce, if it bounces even at the bearish control zone, that's 21.4, which, funny enough, 21.4 is, basically this low over here. So you can see there 21.408. On the actual low, it's 21.366. On the close, it's 21. It was a doji. It was 21.789. But that's basically the lows over here. You had a 21.6 on the actual closing low. 21.628. So that would be a move down to the bearish control zone, and there would still be plenty of opportunity for bullish momentum to be reset here, and see some further upside from that area if it does get tested. You'd want to see it test a little bit higher to get a nice continuation drive of bullish divergence, or in this case, a hidden bull div. We're not there yet, but we'll see if that does happen, if this area falls apart. 24,350 is going to be the number to turn momentum back to the upside here on the daily. We've got the 2-day that just opened, and of course we did slice through and then balance on top of that $23,000 range pivot for the point of control. Do you see that it's pressure down on the 2-day, 24,400? Let's see the 3-day. Let's see, the 3-day is going to be 24,119. We've got the 5-day at 24,2. I would say, from the look that some of these higher term timeframes, including the weekly here at 24,877, if we do see closures on the daily above $24,000, I think we run the highs. Doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to break the highs, but I do think that we run them. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at Bollinger Bands quickly here, and then we're going to look at the monthly. So Bollinger Bands on the weekly, the area to hold 22,684 is the first standard deviation before, the bias would be to go test around the 20 simple on the weekly, which is nearly $20,000. In this case, 19,738. So keep that in mind. Bollinger Bands here on the 5-day as well. We're looking at 19,815 is where the 20 simple is. If the first standard deviation to the downside is lost, that would be 22,826. We have tested into it a few times here on the 5-day. The 3-day, we've already lost it. 21.8 is the midline here. If it can regain 24,250, then it would be back up to test the highs, maybe higher at 26.6 or so. We've got the 2-day. We're actually on top of the 20 simple here at 23,227, trading slightly above there. If we were to see things close back above, yep, 24,046 bucks in this case, we could run the highs there at the second standard deviation to maybe even higher than the highs there at around 25.5, 25.7 actually almost. So we're kind of going sideways in a range, and this is more bullish than bearish. I know everybody wants to be bearish because it's failing to get through that big area at 25.2, this area over here, and myself included. But you know what this is telling me right now is that there's still a higher percentage chance for things to go up than down. Now, from the daily perspective, we're seeing that the first standard deviation to the upside is 24.4. That would give us the bias that we could run 25.5. Need to see, of course, the daily closure above there in order to move things up to about 26.5 at the third standard deviation to the upside. If we do lose the 20 simple, we're going to be targeting there, well, lower, mid to lower $22,000 there at the first standard deviation to the downside, 22,245, 250 area. And then the second standard deviation, which would beget expansion to the downside in this case, is around 21,171, and that is coming in, cutting right across this high here, just about down to $20,000 at the third standard deviation to the downside here. So very, very important areas to be aware of. I do think if you are using Bollinger Bands, that you keep this on your chart and take a look at it every once in a while, or have an area where you have them marked out in your drawing tools or something like that, because those areas are going to be very important. Now, let's go ahead and look at, we looked at the weekly, so we had the weekly close, right? The weekly, we said the momentum pivot's going to be 24,876. There is an initial cross down, so there's pressure down on the weekly. We do not have a high in on the weekly until anything below the wick low at 22,520. That would put in a high. That would come on bearish divergence. And then we look to the next week to see if it confirms with a breakdown. 16,500 is going to be the 2 week, though. That just opened this Sunday. The 3 week we have closing this week. The 4 week also opened this past Sunday. So this is kind of where my bias for, I'm not looking for like a crazy breakdown. I'm kind of looking for sideways and up, to be quite honest, and it's the 4 week and higher time frames. The 17,260, we'll call it, is the area on the 4 week. So to maintain upside, that's what we need to see. And then the monthly here is crossed up on Stoke, 16,775, we'll call it, 770, 775 area here on spot price. So we are looking at, upward pressure on the longer time frames. So to me, what this means is more than likely we're looking at, even if we do get a downside move from here, we're looking at likely finding support and trying to trend back up. And this also would not be your telltale distribution pattern either. So let's flip on the swing chart here, and you can see that if we were going to see a distribution pattern, typically what we would see is something that comes down here, passes this low, and then bounces back up and fails at the highs, and then creates that new trend down, right? So that'd be your typical distribution pattern. I mean, we could have a variation of that, but usually we're going to pass this lower low, come up to a lower high, but get everybody enticed by breaking this high. Comes in as a lower high than the actual highs, and then we dump out past the most recent low. That would be a distribution pattern. We're not quite there yet. If we did dump down, we're going to get a nice bounce up, and that's where we would see the opportunities for both sides, whether it be turn into distribution or the bulls take over and bring it to the highs and higher. So that is going to be it on Bitcoin spot price action here on some of the longer term time frames. We can go ahead and take a look at the 12-hour here. 12-hour is in a confirmed downtrend. So we've got our lower low, lower high, lower low. Looks like it's going to paint a lower high here. Stoke is up right now, but it's not looking strong at the moment. If it trends sideways a little bit more, it will have an opportunity. $23,050 to keep that turn to the upside here by close today. And looking at the 8-hour, already kind of trending up, but looking very weak, 23,165. We've already put in a confirmed high here. So it's got to put in a higher low and try and take out the high at, nearly $24,000, 23,895 there on the high. So, below $24,000, I'm not very interested in further upside. If it does crack 24,000, then that changes a bit here. Got a bit of a head and shoulders pattern here, but nothing too crazy. It's not on a close, so it's not a technical head and shoulders. We do see momentum is starting to shift back to the downside, 23,363. Yeah, and it's not looking too great right now. In fact, let's go ahead and look at this on the Bollinger Bands real quick here. Okay, so anything below 23,090, and specifically anything below the lows there at 22,850 or so, we're going to start seeing expansion to the downside. And, on the other side of that, anything above 23,580, 585 to around that 23,830, we're going to see expansion to the upside or re-expansion to the upside. 4 hours, just consolidating. The next big move is going to come on any closure above 23,666 and 23,000 basically. Below 23,000, you're going to see expansion of the Bollinger Bands to the downside. Above 23,666, we'll see expansion of Bollinger Bands to the upside. And, at minimum, retest that high at 23,900, 23,895 or whatever it is here. What is it actually? It's 23,895, yeah. So I would be looking for that move to come to the upside and retest the highs. And if we did get this move to the downside, that's where we're looking to go test that mid 22 to low $22,000 area and kind of gauge things from there. So that's going to do it for the lower term time frame analysis here. Go ahead and take a look at CME real quick here on the daily and see what its momentum pivot is. 24,616. So it's a little ways away from there, as you can see. The weekly is going to be 24, almost 25,000. So, and then the monthly is going to be 15,850. So there's a lot of room for Bitcoin to move on the month from the monthly perspective for momentum. But from a structural standpoint, this looks like it wants to come down at least and test the mid 22s here, possibly even down to the mid 21s down here at the second standard deviation on the daily here. So when that monthly does close, tomorrow's video, I will take a look at the monthly momentum pivots and kind of go from there and see where things might end up. Here's the other thing that I wanted to point out. One last thing with the monthly here. The first standard deviation to the downside on the monthly is around $20,000. So getting back below there would be not so good, right? The same is going to go for the spot price chart. So that was CME, is around 19,900 area. And spot price is sitting at 20,200. So anywhere below there, I do think there's some problems for Bitcoin. And then of course, breaking out of this range to the high, breaking the highs here would give me the bias on the monthly that it would take a while, but more than likely we'd see around that $30,000 to $34,000 area around the 20 simple. There's quite a bit of resistance to get through, but I do think that would be a realistic target, and then we come back to it after. So I don't think it's quite over for Bitcoin just yet. Now I say that if it does drop $23,000, that's a warning signal that we're going to go down and test lower. And then keep your eyes peeled, because if it doesn't bounce and we start seeing $20,000 get tested and it starts ripping through levels to the downside, it's probably going to be over for a little while. And we're looking at better prices for Bitcoin for accumulation, but you probably don't want to get in the way of that and start longing on the way down. But if we do see nice bounces within this range, good scalp longs can turn into some swing long positions. Just be careful as we enter the new month. I do think it's going to get fairly volatile. So that's going to do it for me today. You all have a wonderful morning, afternoon, and evening, no matter where you are in the world. Please trade safe and stay safe. With all of that being said, Landy out.